14.
14, so freshman year.
Okay.
And his, I shouldn't say his new goal is to really take coursework that can allow him to transfer into different settings should at some point he choose not to homeschool anymore. He is dyslexic. He is still not he's not done with his intensive reading program. What pieces can be in place? I like that yours has the option where he can rewatch a video.
Yes.
If you do the subscription plan, he can rewatch that video as many times as he needs to and continue to practice and listen. I also really like that you offer the Zoom sessions. If you have had any other students that have had some of these struggles in your live set, or not in your live sessions, but in your subscribed sessions, and really what they do.
Right. So what I have them do typically is make sure they, pause the videos as much as necessary, get that information off of the screen. So screens make it worse. And so any kind of reflective material, I'm sure you already know that. And so whenever they're watching, maybe it's better for them to be looking at the piece of paper, not so much at the screen. At the end of all my videos, I have the same exact information that I give them on the board. I put it in a PowerPoint slide as well. So they're able to see it again in a different format on a dark background with light writing. And that seems to do a lot better with the visual issues versus a whiteboard with colored marker on it. Sometimes, my handwriting might not be as perfect as they need it to be. So there's lots of things that I try to make sure you get every type of information I'm giving to you in all the different ways. I want you to watch it, I want you to listen, and I want you to see it two different ways. And then I also want you writing it down. And so we're using all of those learning styles every single lesson, every single time. When you have a hiccup, yeah, go back and watch the video again. I tell my in-person classes, like, my video people have a better option than my in-person people because they can't rewind me, they can't pause me, and they definitely can't mute me. When you're in control and you get to rewind it, or you, even if like you're on lesson 3 and you go, oh, I do remember she said that in lesson 1, I'm going to go back and watch that 5 minutes one more time. It's such a benefit because you have access to all of it. Or if you're like, oh, yeah, I already know this part, fast forward. So that's a huge perk. But what I'd like him to do is, if you have the time, is to do the flashcard method first. So, you can start Spanish Geniuses with zero knowledge. It doesn't expect you to know anything. We start with the vowels. We start with el, la, los, las, and hello and goodbye and manners. Quest for my high schoolers to do is do what I call a quick start guide with the flashcards. Because what happens is when they're learning the new language, they're learning it the same way that they've learned everything else. They're putting information in a factual portion or a memory portion of their brain, not in a part that they can use. So they're not learning it the way they learned their first language. And so that sets them up for a lot of memorization and a lot of forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
Use the flashcard method first, the see it and say it method. And I know he's 9th grade, he doesn't have time for the 2-year curriculum, the hands-on, all that stuff. But if we do it for just 3 weeks, that opens up that portion of the brain and gives you a spot that you're like, oh, this is where it's going to go. And the brain does the rest, right? You're already creating that foundation. And so he's going to see a lot of his memory issues, things like that. Because we wake up this part of his brain up here, his other parts of learning is going to improve because he has new synapses and new pathways to go that simply they just stay dead. So not only for college prep, but for anybody with a visual learning problem of any sort, learning a second language is huge. It's huge for dementia. There's so many things. Autism, all kinds of things. Once you open up that second part of the brain that you don't typically use, you're just like, whoa, I'm better at remembering everything now. I'm faster at my math. So it's not just about Spanish. It's about, it's a different type of therapy. So here's the I like it card. And so when you're holding the card, first of all, your brain's already, holding it, feeling it, seeing it. And so your brain's much more accepting of this piece of paper, this little chunk of information, rather than seeing it on the screen. On the back, we have the Spanish, the English, and what it sounds like. And so it's there if he needs it, but really I don't want him looking at that at all. I want him just like, oh, this is the I like it card. Me gusta. Me gusta. And the 3-week lessons talks it through, right? He lays out the cards in a certain order, and then he's going to touch and repeat. It feels so simple. You're like, seriously, you want me to touch it and say it? Yes, I want you to touch it and say it. Me gusta. El pollo. Necesito. And if he needs to flip it over, el libro. He's like, okay, el libro. Yeah, I got it. El libro. But then we're flipping it back to the photo time. Then he gets to immediately put together his own opinion. So maybe he wants to say, yeah, I like the book. Me gusta el libro. or I like the chicken. Me gusta el pollo. And so he's communicating an opinion or a need. This is I need, necesito. And it's training his brain to think in Spanish rather than read and translate.
Okay.
And so once he does these 3 weeks of lessons, it's got the 45 cards in there. And you download the lessons and you laying out 6 cards at a time, getting them into your brain, memorizing them where you can actually flash on, and so if I hold it up, he's gonna say el pollo, or if you're holding it up, he says el pollo. This it just preps your brain differently. So
Okay.
that's what I would like him to do before he does the Spanish Geniuses video course. And not only will he go, oh, I know like half of the words from lesson 1 already. And so that will be confident building, but it also has just kind of given him a spot that now all the information is going to go there when he has trouble, and he will, right? Every student has trouble. Oh, I can't remember that one word. Then he's going to draw it or doodle it or take a picture of it or something, do something to, because he now knows, oh, I know what I need to do to make this stick a little bit better. I need to see a photo and hear the word. And the reason that works is because that's how he learned his first language, right? You didn't sit him down with phonics at 9 months old and say, let's spell bottle. You held up the bottle and he said, you want the bottle? Bottle? No. And then he responded. So your brain is already hardwired to learn this way. And that's why the method works. It's just because it's exactly the way you learned your first language. Yeah. So that 3 weeks of flashcards, it's like probably 10 to 15 minutes a day. And you can go faster if you want to, but we really want you to master it before you move on to the next lesson. So if you're like, oh, these 6 cards, I don't have them yet, it might be a little bit longer than 3 weeks. But so what he'll be able to do is after 45 words or 45 cards, he'll be able to say things like, I like the chicken, but he'll also be able to say, I like to eat the chicken. I like to buy the chicken, or I need, right? I need to buy the chicken, or whatever it is. And so that process of laying out all those different cards is going to just kind of really propel him to fluency and remove any fears about reading or writing.
Okay. And then in terms of pronunciation, I know that, I mean, I think I emailed in the email the soft J or the J saying the H sound, your double L's. In terms of picking that up, it seems like you do discuss it in your courses. But that obviously with him being dyslexic, that sound and letter connection has been really enforced, we can say, obviously, in the English language. So is there any tricks or anything that you would recommend for making sure at the point where he is looking at a word in the textbook or something like that, that he is still remembering, oh, this is not that sound. This is, I need to switch on my Spanish brain and remember that the Spanish language is different and these sounds are different. Is there a way to practice even just your alphabetic sounds?
I mean, it'll come naturally with practice. We do introduce it slowly. Like if it's very evident and glaring, I'll say, okay, this is why this sounds this way. But typically I'm trying to, well, especially with the flashcard method first, and a lot of the vocabulary, the very first couple of weeks, you're looking at a picture, hearing the word and saying it rather than looking at the word. So that will help as well. Hearing it, knowing, okay, la tele, oh, that's the TV. I see the TV, la tele. And then later you look down there and you're like, oh, that looks like teal because it's T-E-L-E. But he's already heard it. He knows what it sounds like first. And so that's my goal for him, is to hear the word before he ever reads it. And then the vocab labs are just, just a screen with the word, the Spanish on the left, English in the middle, and then the phonetic spelling on the right-hand side. So I don't know if that will help or hurt, but he'll figure that out. He'll go that, because that part, he'll be able to rely on the English pronunciation and the phonics and the things that he's been drilling. So anytime he's like, I just don't remember, it's got syllable by syllable on that right-hand side. And I would recommend maybe writing down that syllable by syllable on any of the harder ones to reinforce that.
Okay. Yeah, we did with orange yesterday after we watched your pre-lesson. I was like, oh man.
I don't know how though. Yeah.
That is a big one with a lot of different pieces in there. Would you recommend at some point after we go through the flashcards and he kind of is starting to take these lessons, doing anything like Duolingo on the side, just
People that get really good at Duolingo just get really good at Duolingo. Like
okay.
I really feel like they just get really good at clicking that icon. I don't think it's a terrible use of time. Like it's probably better than watching YouTube shorts, but
Right.
I honestly I would rather him watch something that's meaningful in Spanish.
Right.
It's just so bad for you. And
Right. I'm with you. I fully, I agree.
it
So,
might. It might
yeah.
help. Maybe so.
Okay.
But any moment on a screen that we don't have to be,
Right. Why do it?
I would rather him make flashcards. I would rather him make post-it notes and label things. The biggest thing that's going to help him is giving meaning to every new word. So you learned anaranjado yesterday. Me gusta means I like it. So anytime I point at something, if I like it, I can just go, oh, me gusta, me gusta. If I don't like something, I go, no me gusta. So you learned about the color orange yesterday, anaranjado. Would you say me gusta anaranjado or no me gusta anaranjado for you?
No me gusta.
No me gusta. Excelente. So that right there, any new word, you're gonna have an opinion on. Even if it's silly, you're like, okay, la taza, it's a cup, la taza.
Mhm.
Me gusta or no me gusta. You're like, who cares? Me gusta or no, whichever one. But the thing is, you have to make a choice, and then you put it together, and you have that option. So that's going to be a lot more effective use of time is giving your opinion rather than being on a screen. And that's what's going to get these things into your communication part of your brain so that when you need to communicate, it's there and not in a list in the back part of your brain where you're always just memorizing stuff because you're like, I can't even retrieve it in enough time to use it to communicate because that's not where you put it.
Right. No, that makes sense. And then in terms of your live sessions that you offer, are those based off of where the kids are in the program?
They choose the topic, and then I start with nouns typically because nouns is what you learned as a baby first. And so here's Saturno, Pluton, el astronauta, el extraterrestre. Yeah, of course, we had to talk about aliens, spaceships, the solar system. So there's a list of words over on the right-hand side, and then the kids pick from those. Sometimes they speak English, sometimes they speak Spanish, and then we make sentences. So we're saying things like el astronauta está lejos de. He's far away from whatever it is. And very gently, they're building their sentences. Some of them totally understand what's happening. Others are a little bit lost, but they by the end of the 30 minutes, they've gained at least 4 or 5 words. They've heard other kids speak, and in a few sessions, they're speaking as well. And so they get to choose. So yeah, and then my students are like Spanish 2, or at the end of Spanish 2 even, are like, okay, well, how did I say that in the past? Or they try to say it in the past tense, and then I need to correct them or not. So it's just wherever each kid is. Some people don't turn their camera on at all. They never unmute, but they'll type over in the chat room.
Okay.
Others, I've never seen them or heard them, but they're there every single time.
Do you ever post what you guys had created for the day? I know things like that.
Yes. So what I do is this is, it develops slowly. It doesn't turn out this messy.
Yeah.
But yes, you have access to that. And the cool thing is then you can just go to the end of the video, pause it, and just watch, catch up on your screen.
Okay.
And I also post a list in the description underneath that video. So the list that I was working from is available to you as well, all typed out in a pretty little description underneath the video.
If he had specific questions about a lesson, if he was in, lesson 3 or lesson 7, what method works best, I guess.
So sometimes people type things out and they're like, hey, number 4 on page 485, I put this, is that okay? And I'm like, see, I just write it back. Other times they type out a big long paragraph and I make a short video and send it back because it's easier to explain that way. And I'll open up the textbook to where they are and say, okay, this is why, this is how. But I do start every bonus session with, okay, does anybody have any homework questions?
Okay.
And so that part's not recorded. We talk about whatever it is, unless it's really, I'm like, oh gosh, this is a really good question. Do you mind if I record this? And I go, oh, sure. I mean, nobody's ever said no.
You are a much more approachable person. We've watched several different live or pre-recorded situations in a lot of subject matters, I should say. And then the textbook, is the textbook also kind of like homework style pages?
So here's your textbook. It's very scary. But the good
It's
news
okay.
is the very first last lesson, we go through and we find out that, oh, this much of it's the answer key. And so I have
Okay.
a paper clip there. So, okay, already we're shrinking this. And then the next part is, oh, this is just the vocab section. So check it out. We've just halved the textbook. It's the best one I found so far. So here we are, lesson 22. Okay, so we're a good, 3/4 of the way through the class at this point. So there's a story that you're going to read. It comes with audio, so you're able to listen along as well. So you're listening to it. I try to ask them to please listen without reading, but most kids listen as they read, and that's all right. At the bottom of the page is the vocab. You can notice that we don't do every single word.
Okay.
So I have them pick and choose which words they're the most common. And so we go through and mark the ones that you need to get onto your own paper, and then I assign different ones. You do have information here. You'll be able to access. So this is what your notes are about. I give you notes in a way that's much more understandable, but here is all the information from the week.
Okay.
And you're going to do these different exercises. It gives you examples, and at the back of the book, you can check your answers.
Got it. Okay. It's taking in the teaching component connected to the book.
Right. So it's
Okay.
just, yeah. So this is like, if you're in college, here's your textbook that you need to buy at the college bookstore.
Okay.
And then the guidebook is basically the syllabus, the assignment pages, and the notes. And then you can just, there's the PDF is right there in lesson 1. You can print the whole thing yourself free of charge, hole punch it and put it in a binder. It just, people kept on saying, well, could you put it in a spiral? And I was like, oh, okay.
He likes it.
Me gusta. Awesome.
Yeah, he's giving me 2 thumbs up.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'll look into then getting, is it a specific version of the flashcards that I should look into ordering first?
Yeah, so the Verde set, the green set, is the
Okay.
one you want. And so just get the Verde set, but the audio lessons are 3 weeks. So you'll type in Quick Start in the search bar on flipflopspanish.com, Quick Start, and that will be the Quick Start guide that you download, and you'll want to
Okay.
purchase the flashcards. And
Okay.
then you do those for 3 weeks. I would go ahead and get his Spanish Now textbook, just let it sit around, let him flip through it, get familiar with it. Let it be beat up a little bit so that on the first day of class, it's not the first time he's opening it.
Okay, and then in 3 weeks, we'll obviously be into September a tiny bit, but he should still have no problem really completing the whole Spanish 1 course this school year academically.
I mean, if he does the 1 week per lesson thing, like it just depends on what your goal is, mastery versus
mastery if we can, right? So, but still trying our best to stick to a schedule.
Right. And with the dyslexia and the memory issues and everything like that, I would let him go slower with the understanding that we will probably do 2 lessons a month in the summer. And then as soon as we're done with Spanish 1, we'll go right into Spanish 2 and do 2 lessons a month during the summer and then ramp it up. So it's kind of like math. You don't want, like, I don't ever let my kids quit math. We don't take summer breaks from math. Math always keeps on going all the time, albeit at a slower pace during summertime. So that's what I would recommend, so that when he does, because he probably will want to slow down a little bit, and I don't want him feeling that pressure of being behind. I want him to have the idea of, I've got more than 2 years time. This is only 25 lessons. There's 52 weeks in a year. It's fine.
And my next question was summer. What do we do to keep them involved? And it's just keeping him involved.
Yeah, just going, watch movies in Spanish, not the whole thing, but like his favorite scenes, the 15 minutes. I give you all kinds of ideas. We still have our bonus live sessions throughout the summer. A lot of kids just come to that. They don't continue with their lessons, but they just come, and that way we have fun speaking a little bit of Spanish, and they remember, oh yeah, I do remember some Spanish.
No, I really appreciate that. And then the best way to get in touch with you is just to email if there's any questions about why something is a certain way. Just whatever happens to come up when we hit a roadblock is to just reach out. And no, thank you for your time. I really do. And there's not a lot of research out there. When you Google, foreign language and dyslexia, everything pushes you to ASL.
So frustrating.
It is, because I think that they still, there's plenty of times that all of my kids still want to do a language, and
Right.
they prefer to learn different things and not to feel like they're stuck in one specific set. So this is helpful, but I wasn't really able to get good answers anywhere else.
But to me, the biggest thing was that you've already done all the research and you
Yeah.
knew a lot of reasons why other things wouldn't work. And so I was just like, this is wonderful. Somebody that already understands so much more than the average mom that has a kid that has, you know, a visual anything. And
Anything,
they just start kind of throwing money at it.
And we are lucky that he knows quite a few native Spanish speaking people where he can just converse with once he gets to that point. So he hopefully will feel comfortable doing that at some point.
Well, and that'll be so fun because he'll have the cards. Like maybe this would be a suggestion is whenever you go and speak to your Spanish speaking friends, take your 6 cards and say, okay, this is what I know. You know, and tell them about X plus 1. You know, we talk about this in the videos. X plus 1, where he uses X. We only want to push him plus 1. If we push plus 10, you feel bad. You sit down in a heap and go, this is too hard, or I'm bad at this. And it's neither of those things are true. It's that we need one level of challenge, not 1,000. Yeah. ASL does not work as a therapy the way learning a second language that's spoken does. So it doesn't open up the same part of the brain. So there's that too.
Well, thank you for that as well, because yeah, I've learned a lot, and I appreciate all of the information and the time, and we'll go ahead and get online and order the cards and start working towards that. And I'll reach out if I have any additional questions, but I definitely feel very confident in trying this and hoping that he can be successful. And I think it's something that a format he can stick with and feel pretty good about as well. So
yeah, and you know, you give it a month, and if it doesn't work, you cancel. It's, you know, you're out $400, you're out $35, and so, and that's okay. You know, it's not the fit for everybody, but it might be for y'all.
All of that. So I appreciate it a lot.
All right, yeah, nice to meet you, and I hope to see you in a Zoom call.